things that they do on defense that really challenge you. So, it's been a lot of preparation. This whole time it's been really hardcore prep, and now we ultimately have to be confident in what we're doing and go out there and get the job done.
And it's going to be a great game with two great teams. And if I leave everything I have on the field for my teammates at the end of the day, I'll be happy.
All right, welcome to ADSN, and we have the Super Bowl preview show. Hadn't been with you for a while, but Colin's been on the spot. He's had a lot of guests and some good things going, but it's now time for Super Bowl 55 in sunny Tampa Bay. Raymond James Stadium seats about 75,000. It'll be less than capacity, but I think the great thing that the NFL is doing is bringing down 7,500 vaccinated healthcare workers and giving them a chance to see the game as a gift for all their hard work and the things they've been doing through this COVID-19 time, which has been one of those things we've all had to deal with, but they've done it very well. Everybody will be wearing KN95 masks at all time, maintaining social distancing. I know they'll have the hand. Well, I mean, we all have. I mean, it's in my look, it's in my office. I got it in my bags. But good thing is, all of those folks, and if you have COVID-related symptoms, they won't be allowed in the stadium. But I think the biggest thing, Colin, man, is they get the chance to go see a game. That's the thing to me that's so cool.
Man, Buck, I mean, this is Super Bowl week, man. We're talking about the Super Bowl itself. When was the last time you saw a Super Bowl game that the stands weren't packed to capacity? You know, when you turn on that tape and you see the flashing light bulbs from all the phones. I can't remember a Super Bowl where we haven't seen that. So this is a unique situation in and of itself. But, I think the NFL is doing a great job by bringing in those workers that have been doing so much for us over these last few months. And really giving them the opportunity to be a part of this great experience. And, just like you said, we all have these different things. We have the hand sanitizer, we have the KN95 mask. Just get yourself protected and get out there and enjoy what looks to be a great matchup.
I agree with you. And what about it being a home game for the Buccaneers? That to me blew my mind. Tom Brady leaves New England. Everybody says, is it Bill or is it Tom? Well, I think we're starting to see it might be Tom.
Yeah, I would say that he and Tom Brady has proven in and of itself that beyond all of this, there were a lot of naysayers. There were a lot of people saying system quarterback. There were a lot of people saying all these different things. I think he's done all he needs to do to prove who really was behind the mastermind behind bringing all those Super Bowls to that team. Now, granted, you got a defense wins championships. Bill Belichick is a coaching genius, all that good stuff. But the players play the game. The players play on. Anytime you have that guy on your team, you have a chance. All you got to do is ask the Atlanta Falcons if you have a chance when you Tom Brady. They know firsthand you're never out of the game when you got that guy in your backfield.
Well, you bring up a good point. We'll get into all the matchups, both offense and defensively, but I want to start with the Chiefs. I really am intrigued with how Andy has built this team along with Eric Bieniemy on the offensive side. We have to give his just due. I used to call him a little sawed off. I can't say the rest of it, but I've known him a long time, and he played with the passion. He was always one of those guys that could make plays. And it's interesting to hear his quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, talk about what he brings to that offense. And I think when you watch them, I look at Kittle, I look at Tyreek Hill, I look at all of those things that happen. But my X factor this week is not the skill guys. Their offensive line has been really, really nicked up. And if that offensive line isn't ready to play, that's where I think there's a big disconnect for me. I really think they have a chance to be explosive. They can be down and score on you quickly. Kelsey can catch 10 passes in one quarter. I mean, they have so many ways to hit you and from so many different angles. But if that offensive line isn't clicking, I'm not quite sure that it's going to be that big blowout game because we've seen them. They struggled with 2 or 3 guys coming out. Mahomes makes plays, but they need that offensive line to protect him and give him an opportunity.
Buck, you and I both know, honestly, what this game is about, really. I mean, there's no game to be played without the big boys up front on either side of the ball. Mm-hmm. And honestly, we know that there's going to be a huge loss there without them having Eric Fisher. We know that's going to be a huge loss for that team. number one overall pick in his draft class. Has been a consistent leader on that offense, along that offensive line through a lot of changes. He's the only first-round draft pick on that offensive line. So he is a guy that who's been kind of a staple for the offensive line for not just this season, but seasons past. He's been a bell cow. And to have him not be a part of this game, it's got to be in everybody on that offense's mind, and everybody on that team's mind, because he's a guy that has just been that pillar for that offense for a number of years. So it's going to be a factor, and I got to say Martinez ranking has some playoff experience, some Super Bowl experience. He's played in these games before. It's not going to be too big of a stage, but we all saw, or most of us, I would say, saw the NFC Championship, and we saw what those defensive ends did to that Packers offense that was without Bakhtiari, who was their starting Pro Bowl offensive tackle. Shaq Barrett and JPP had career days and really made A-Rod, who was potentially the MVP front runner at that point, look very uncomfortable, and he wasn't able to play up to his full potential because he was under pressure a lot. So those guys, that's going to be a key factor to this game on the Kansas City Chiefs side, because they have all the weapons. These weapons have been for Patrick Mahomes all season long. That's not going to be anything new. What is new is the fact that he doesn't have everybody along his offensive line there protecting him that he's had for him all season.
And I mean, you bring up a really good point. It's just one of those situations where can your offensive line protect you, but can they also create running lanes for Edwards-Helaire? And they have such a great stable of running backs, but they use Tyreek Hill in reverses. They use Hardeman in reverses, and I think that's the effectiveness that we don't ever give Kansas City enough credit for, what they've been able to do offensive line-wise. And when you have Fisher out and a couple other guys that are out that you relied on, that offensive line was a patchwork situation all playoffs, and they were able to get through that. Well, I mean, we talk about the offense of the Chiefs. What about the Bucs?
I mean, we know the Bucs offense. We know that they got playmakers galore. I mean, we can start with Gronk. We can talk about Mike Evans. We can talk about Cooper. I mean, there are playmakers all over the place. But the one thing I want to talk about is that through it all, we know that last week when we got a chance to see that NFC Championship game, they looked on fire. They had all the weapons that they needed. They did enough to get that game won, but they played without Antonio Brown. And Antonio Brown brings another element to this offense that they don't already have. He was a guy that we saw in games this season do quite a bit more of those reverses that we see Tyreek Hill and Mikal do. So he will be that third running back. Not that they need it. I mean, they already have Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette in that backfield, and those guys have proven to be home run hitters. I mean, we know what happened here in Carolina early on in the season with Ronald Jones. 98-yard run. So those guys have a stable of backs. They have a strong stable of backs, and their offense, they have everything they need. And I think that Tom Brady has played exceptionally well because of the fact that he has the talent around him. I'll say in the last number of years in New England, he has had to play with a reduced talent pool, and unfortunately, which obviously led to his frustration with the organization, which led to him being in Tampa now. So I'm looking forward to that group of offense, that group of skilled players. It's really a tough matchup. When you talk about skilled positions, skilled players on both sides, both offenses, they really have a lot of skilled players, and it's going to be explosive. It's going to be an explosive game, I think.
You bring up a great point. Now, what I've told people all week is we spend so much time when we lead up to the Super Bowls talking about offense. And I know that just gets under your skin as a defensive guy all your life. But no, I've said this week. I said, as much as we think offense is going to win this game, whoever can make stops, because Tampa Bay has been playing well. You talked about JPP and the guys that Devin White. I mean, the guys that they have that have just been running around making plays on that defense. But I don't know if KC's defense gets enough credit either for how well they played, and especially Tyrann Mathieu and just all the different guys that are making plays for him, whether it's Chris Jones. I mean, they are just defensively on the interior. I think that's where both of these teams don't get enough credit for what they've done down the stretch. And I think you as a defensive line guy can appreciate from inside out.
No question. And that's where the game is won. I mean, people look at the matchups on the outside because those guys are kind of standing by themselves or standing against somebody. And that's what you see first and foremost. But what happens inside those trenches between the offensive and defensive line is what wins the games for you. And Kansas City Chiefs defensive lineman Chris Jones, man, I don't know that there's, outside of Aaron Donald, I don't know that there's a better defensive tackle in this game. And honestly, what he does on a consistent basis, Sunday in, Sunday out, is he wrecks plays. He's a play wrecker. He's an offensive game plan wrecker. That's what he does. And he is proven to be able to do that consistently on a regular basis all season. But then you add a guy like Frank Clark to the mix, who comes off that edge and really pushes that edge and forces those quarterbacks to step up to a guy like Chris Jones. That's what makes it so difficult for the Tampa Bay offense to key in on one guy. It's going to make it difficult. But then you add guys like you mentioned, the Honey Badger, an underrated guy who out of Iowa, and Anthony Hitchens, who really solidifies that defensive linebacking core. They have playmakers galore. But in my opinion, though, if I'll be honest with you, Buck, it's not going to come down to either one of these four groups in terms of Kansas City's offense, Kansas City's defense, Tampa Bay's offense, or Tampa Bay's defense. I heard something today that really got me thinking. Special teams. Special teams is going to be a key factor to what this game is, because we know about these offenses. We know how explosive these offenses are. We know how well these defenses have played. And it's going to be a tough battle on Sunday. But what can Harrison Butker do when that time comes and he needs to make that play, right? That's what it's going to come down to. That's what it always comes down to, is the kicking game. People don't think about it, but it comes down to the kicking game. What is Ryan Succop going to do on fourth and whatever with the game on the line? Who's going to be able to make those plays? You know what I mean? Returners, I mean, we know Kansas City with Tyreek Hill and Mecole Hardman, those returners are insane. And on the other side, again, you got Antonio Brown with all that speed. So special teams is going to play a bigger role than anybody's thinking about right now. We're looking forward to it.
Well, Colin, you bring up a really good point, because you think about Buffalo when they had that stretch of that run. I played against the Bills in 92 to 95, but when they lost the game in 90, the kick was wide right. If they Super Bowl, they may win two, but for sure that one. And then, Desmond Howard for the Green Bay Packers, the logo I see behind you. It's always in these Super Bowls where there are big returns or big kicks missed or big kicks made. So I agree with you. So Colin, I mean, we talked about the Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu, energy. And I mean, if he could package that, people would buy it, because that's how he brings it. I want to know. I mean, I want to know what's on his mind. I love the clip a few weeks ago where offensive lineman comes and knocks him down, and he's like, man, gave him love and said, man, he knocked the crap out of me, put me on my butt. I love that part about football. We got a little clip for Tyrann Mathieu talking about what it's going to take and how he's feeling before the Super Bowl.
Kind of happens, through the course of the game. I think the most important thing is you just try to, keep your composure, while maintaining, high energy. I think that's really always the challenge. But I think anytime you step on the field, just got to put it in your mind that, everybody's out to get you, and, you got to stand up for yourself, make a play for your team. I think it all comes down to, obviously keeping your composure, and, not really hurting your team or getting a penalty that, sets you back.
Yeah, man, when I watched him in college, when I heard people say this kid couldn't play, that is where I started thinking, we got to look at how we look at people differently. Because he wasn't a guy that you could just say was a corner or a safety or a linebacker. He was a football player. And when I have football players, I can remember my little electric man game or the electric game, and you always had one guy that was really fast and all the other ones just kind of stayed there. That's how Tyrann Mathieu plays to me. He is always over the field, and I just love his energy and his enthusiasm. Sometimes it gets him in trouble because he goes across the line, but he's played with such reckless abandonment that defense thrives on his energy.
Man, but let me tell you something. Me personally, being a dad, coaching Little League, coaching flag football, I will always take the players that I got to pull back rather than the ones I got to try to speed up and try to get them going. Those are the players I don't go sit down somewhere. I want those guys that are ready to come in and do it and put everything into it. That's what you want as a coach or as a player or as a teammate. right? Me personally, I play with guys that are all on the spectrum. One guy that I would compare him to is a guy like Bob Sanders, who has that intensity. And you have all these different factors over here that you say, oh, well, this guy, he may not be successful, or these things will cause him to not be successful. But then you have this guy over here who says, I don't care nothing about what you are talking about. I'm going to be myself, and I'm going to show the world what I can do. And take no names or take no BS from anybody along the way. And that's who Tyrann Mathieu has proven himself to be. Because if you think back on it, you think back on his college days, he left her. Like, his situation was kind of, but you know, ultimately we knew that he loved football, and he put it all out there on the line when he was out there with the LSU Tigers, and he's doing the same thing with these Kansas City Chiefs now.
You always love when you have guys on the defense, especially safety, linebacker kind of position that'll come up and bring wood. Eric Turner, rest his soul, I played with him at UCLA. I'd run him over sometimes, but boy, he cleaned my clock a whole bunch of times. Snot coming out, but I had to get him. Little dude, but would come and knock your block off. Yep. I saw Bob Sanders knock himself in the next week when I was calling Colts games, and came back out because they tried to hide his helmet. Bob wouldn't let him, and he would hurt himself because he would hit people so bad. I love that. It gets goosebumps now when I think about watching him play, because I can remember seeing him at Iowa when they played Ohio State. I think I called the game, and I saw him. He was the first thing that showed up, and he flashed. Fast forward to when I saw him in Indianapolis in the league, and I told him when I met him, I said, bruh, you're going to hurt yourself, but you do what you got to do. And he did that all his career. So good. I love when we see guys like that and they get their shine. That's the best thing. Hey, man, a lot of talk about diversity, and I think it's really important. I'm not sure what happened with this head coaching hires that came about. We know there's a few guys that have gotten left out. You can think about Tua in this game. Leftwich's name was named. He was named Byron Leftwich, but I thought he was about a year away from getting to that next step. Eric Bieniemy at some point needs to be a head coach. He's been talked about, but we haven't seen that. But what I will say about Bruce Arians, the cool Kango hat and all that, he has so much diversity on his staff, it ain't even funny. And I think that's the thing that I love to see when coaches say, look, I'm going to let the best guys get out here, and if you're black, that's just a bonus. I'm not going to hire you because you're black. I'm going to hire you because you're good. And that's the thing that Bruce has kind of showed us with the hires that he's made on his staff.
I don't know if I've ever been a part of anything like this. This is unique. This is different. This is not the norm. This is not the norm of how this league and how the coaching staff looks across the league. It's a blessing that the BA has his view that he has. I just hope no one believes that he's just giving us anything. If you know him, you know he's not giving you anything. You got to earn everything that you pretty much get from him or his view of you. So nobody's been given anything. Everybody's earned this. Obviously, everyone's doing their job. The fact that we're here with the players, putting us in position to have an opportunity to win this football game. So to be in this type of game. So, I mean, I'm just happy that BA has the view of that he has, because hopefully more people are starting to see it, that it should be about opportunity. It shouldn't really be about skin color. It should be about if you're capable of doing the job or gender. So it's just a blessing to work for some that have that type of perspective.
I think it's important. Look, when we talk about the whole situation, we know who represents this league, right? 70+% of the players in this league are black men, ultimately. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, black men relate to black men just a little bit better, right? And the other thing about it is when I look at it, it's difficult because we talk about the demographics being 70+% black. How does that not translate into a higher percentage of those men becoming coaches? Because I would say that the fire and the passion that are in them that help them become NFL players still lies within them. I would question whether or not the opportunities are available, and if that's something that dissuades those men to pursue coaching careers. But it is unfortunate, and it's really frustrating. Mm-hmm. You know, at this point, how many minority coaches are there in the NFL? Ron Rivera and I know that they got rid of Anthony Lynn, so it's tough to even say if there are any minority coaches in the NFL. And it's the hard thing about it, just like you said, this is Black History Month and everything of that nature. The hard pill to swallow for me is that the underrepresentation is so just blatant, and I think that until there is a stronger push by ownership to make the coaching searches more diverse, it's not going to work out very well in terms of creating diversity. And if you look at a guy like Robert Saleh, who's another minority, but not a Black man, right? And so, in my opinion, ownership has to really step up. And honestly, that's an area that has to be more diverse as well. We look at the only owners that is a minority is Khan down there in Jacksonville. And so, I think that when you have a lack of representation on all levels, then you won't have much change. So I'm hoping that with the change of times and with the society as to where it is now, there's the conversations that are being had. So I'm hoping that continues.
You did a coaching intern, and I always ask people, I coached in the semi-pro game, the Alliance of American Football. What was the most eye-opening thing in your coaching experience? And what did you see as things that, hey, this is maybe one of the reasons why it's going to take a while to change? What was the most eye-opening, and what was the thing that made you say, hey, we got a lot of work to do here?
I think that when it comes down to it is level of comfort, right? When it comes down to it, people are more comfortable with people that they know, people that they have things in common with, that whole deal. My opportunity to do was an amazing opportunity, and the question of what it looked like for me, it's tough, right? Because I see it from different angles, and for instance, the position group that I was helping to coach was the defensive line. Every last one of those guys were Black guys. The defensive line coach was a white guy. He has since moved on, but I think that there is, at times, you have to really look at the demographics of the men that you're dealing with and who they really relate to the best. And I think when you talk about Bruce Arians, understanding Byron Leftwich will get more out of certain guys, being in that position. And I think that giving those men respect enough to say that not only are you capable to do this on paper, stand up in front of a group of men and put it all down on the chalkboard, but you're also relatable. Guys can relate to you. You got a guy like Brian Leftwich, who was drafted in the first round of the 2003 draft. I mean, how does he not relate to your players on your team? That's what I say the NFL has to take the next step in and putting more and more men in those positions.
Yeah. Colin, you bring up a point. It's always, I can remember Sherman Lewis. He was offensive coordinator, but he didn't call plays. Andy Reid did. So then it became the quarterback coach. It's always kind of like a moving target. And that's the part for me. You have a PhD, multiple PhD in football, right? You know that. Defensive line play, but you're still humble because you have to learn. And I think the one thing that I've seen with really good coaches, whether they were Black or white, is they could teach. But I've seen a lot of brothers get there and know intimately how to X and O, but they also know how to relate and know how to touch you and get on you and drive you when you want to tell them. They know how to get you at the right place. And I think we never give our Black coaches enough credit for how smart they are. And that's the part that I want. I am vocal when I hear Byron Leftwich and Tom Brady, because Tom Brady's calling plays, but Byron is his eyes. Tom Moore did that with Peyton Manning. That's why I know Byron is going to be a great head coach when he gets that chance. And that's the kind of things that great coaches will say, hey, what do you see? Ted Marchinbrother, when we come off the field, hey, guys, is it what we talked about? Is it what we practiced? What do you see, Jim Harbaugh? What do you see, Marshall? What do you see? Those are the kind of coaches that I always want to play for, because I think they give you the best chance to be successful and they tap into your greatness. Well, Colin had a chance to catch up with some of our guys. I mean, he talked to Super Bowl champs and guys that played in the Super Bowl and their experience. Let's take a listen to some of that. It was great stuff, by the way, Colin.
Thanks.
I never felt the turf underneath my feet, man. I felt like I was flying down the field on some kind of jetpack on my back. And it was just incredible adrenaline feeling.
We dreamed this as a kid, but we also know it's hard as a kid to get where we got. So I just think, man, just overall in general, just being in that position, being in that, that was one of the childhood goals that I'll never forget. And having the platform to show my friends and family what it looked like inside, the locker room and to how Super Bowl 50 and just the overall in general, even the press conferences and stuff, man, it was just a great week, draining week, but also, man, a week that I'll never forget.
Losing the game, it's just crushing. And to see all the confetti and the colors of the Patriots come raining down as you're walking off the field, it's tough to swallow, especially for me, because I was at the end of my career and it was going to be the last time that I had a chance to go to a Super Bowl.
To get there and to win it all on the week of your birthday, man, I say words can't explain how I felt. And now, the good thing is that I got the trophy to prove it and the hardware.
Yeah, Buck. So it was amazing, man, really getting a chance to really reconnect with those guys. It was an awesome opportunity, and those guys had some great stories, man. It was awesome. But, the thing about it, man, is that everybody had an unforgettable experience at the Super Bowl. And, if you guys haven't caught that, you should catch that. And I had some great interviews with those guys.
Yeah, I think that was a big thing that I love, man, listening to people and when they have their stories and they can tell you exactly what it was like, what they felt. I've been to Super Bowls, never got the chance to play in them, but I love hearing those stories because it's so few guys that have had a chance to play in them and then so few that have won them. Hey, so let me say this too. We got The Weeknd, my daughter's favorite dude. I'm a Star boy. I know some of his songs. He's gonna be there knocking it out. And I think if memory serves me right, he spent $7 million of his own money for the halftime show. What, 7? Whoa! So that means he's got a whole lot more coin if he's spending $7 million to do the half. I mean, how did he get that kind of money to do this thing?
Well, as you know, Buck, I'm pretty sure everybody who does these performances at the halftime, they do it on their own coin. So the league and everybody, they don't pay for none of that stuff for the halftime show. So we saw Beyonce some years ago. We saw Prince some years ago. We see some memorable halftime shows. These artists have all put their own money up. So to see what the Weeknd is putting up, we're talking about $7 million. I mean, what kind of show is he planning on putting up? We're talking about lights, spectacular, flame. We got to see some of everything.
Hey, speaking of Prince, I was at that Super Bowl with my wife. She's a big Prince fan. I am as well. Quick story. So we get there, and I played in Miami, once a year when I played with the Colts. So usually it would rain in Miami and then be gone 30 minutes later, right? It never rained the whole time. So I said, babe, we'll be okay. It rained the whole first quarter and first and second quarter. So she was like, he better not come out. And I kept teasing her. I said, he's not coming out. He came out with that do-rag on, and it stopped raining just enough. And for 12 minutes, that dude got down. I mean, it was awesome because Prince was cold anyway, but being there live and listening to him play in the rain and then Purple Rain, everything, dude, that was off the chain. That was one of my highlights of my life. And we had to throw our shoes away, Colin. We were so wet. We were so, and this was before they had the canopy. So it was just crazy.
Y'all had the old Pro Player Stadium. That's what that was.
Yeah, exactly. You're from down that part. Yeah.
You're right, though. It never rains like that. And I remember that. That was the Bears and the Colts here. And I remember. Yeah. I just happened to be down in Miami too. It was like, where's this? This is never. But it was. But I think it made the performance that much better. Because he came out with that do rag and all that good stuff. And I think that was added to that ambiance.
Well, I think the Super Bowl commercials, that's going to be a good one. If this Alexa one that I've kind of seen some clips with Michael B. Jordan, that one is a front runner to win. It's already, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's pretty doggone good. And they say that's going to be a tough one to beat. So early predictions, that might be the Super Bowl commercial. If you haven't seen it, it'll come out. So Bubba Wallace, and we'll see on IG. He was able to pick who he thinks is going to win the Super Bowl.
Who you got for the Super Bowl? That could be our final question. It's a good one to end on.
Oh, that's a great question to end on.
So I'm in the same boat. It's just like, man, you're going up against TB12. That's going to be tough. But, you know, I really respected or gained a lot of respect for Mahomes. He actually reached out through everything last year and became a supporter through it all. So got to know him just a little bit on a very small scale. Shot him a text last week saying, hey, man, you got one more to go get. So, you know, he's doing some big things in such a young age. You can relate on a lot of things. So I know he's got, you know, the weight of the world on his shoulders. So I'm going to be pulling for – I don't necessarily think they're the underdogs, but anytime you go up against Tom Brady, you're an underdog, right? So that's I'm going to go for the Chiefs. I'm going to go for the Chiefs.
Colin, I got to ask you, who's going to win Super Bowl 55?
Oh, man, Buck, I think everybody has their own thoughts. I mean, you know, I think most times every year, right, everybody's got their team's going to win. Their team's going to win. For me, I don't really ever have a vested interest, you know, unless the team that I played for played in it. However, I always love when somebody could take a situation and turn it around and stick it to the man. I'm always sticking it to the man. That's why I'm always thought. Now, this situation isn't quite the little guy in Tom Brady. He's not the little guy. Now, he is. There is no question. He is the unrelenting, unquestionable GOAT at quarterback position in the NFL history. It hands down. It's for itself. So for him to leave an organization that he spent 20 years in and go to an organization, be their first year, new offense, new head coach, new offensive coordinator, new faces all around him. Not to mention the COVID year, right? They didn't have an off season. They did not have they didn't have none of that stuff.
None of that. They
didn't have preseason games, right? But for that team to put it all together and to go on the run that they went on, especially in the playoffs, to go on the run they went on, go into Lambeau Field and beat the number one seed. I feel like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have the tools to get it done. Now, granted, Kansas City has Mahomes. He is the now. He's not the future. He is the now. However, one thing that concerned me, Buck, is that what we talked about earlier, that offensive line and how they're gonna fare against both of those defensive ends. That's the whole offense, the whole D line, of course. But how are they gonna protect their backup offensive tackle? That's one thing. And so with that in and of itself, I'm going with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. I think it's going to be about 35-28. So that's what I'm going
to I agree with you. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game in the 35, 37 to 34 mark. But here's what I think is going to happen. Patrick Mahomes, with that toe having a couple of weeks to heal, and his maneuverability and the ability to get out of harm's way helps that left tackle. That's all. I mean, because I think when Andy and Eric and Patrick Mahomes have a chance to work through this week or all of this stuff over the last couple of weeks, they've designed some really good things to help neutralize some of the defense. Tom Brady's going to score. That first half, I haven't seen him play like that in a long time in that NFC Championship game. He struggled in the second half, but I just think Kansas City, here I pick Kansas City. If they get down by 2 touchdowns, that's nothing for them. You got to really get on top of them to beat them. And I think that's where we're going to see. Tampa Bay may get out and get up on them by 14 points. I still think Kansas City has enough firepower and too many weapons. They catch up, they win the game. It'll be a historic moment because you've got a passing of the torch. Even though Tom still has some time left, Patrick Mahomes is going to be there some more. He's going to be in contention for it if they can keep building around him. And Tom Brady, now 10 Super Bowls. That's unbelievable. And I'm going with Kansas City on this one. Hey, Colin, appreciate it, man. You had a great week of work and talking to folks. Tell folks about that real quick before we leave. And then also, you got a podcast you do as well.
Well, yeah, Buck. So everybody go check out ADSN1. Check out the YouTube channels. Check out the interviews that I did this week with the guys on their Super Bowl week experiences. It was a great opportunity to catch up with some of my former teammates as well as some guys just talking about their experience about Super Bowl week. just a great conversations there. And then if you get an opportunity, check me out on Legends of Kinnick. I started a podcast. I actually have a few of them, but check out my Legends of Kinnick podcast. Not everybody's an Iowa Hawkeye. Well, maybe everybody is a Hawkeye fan. If you guys will check me out I'm on all handles in terms of also all of the podcasting handles. So check me out. I'm on, Apple TV. I'm on Apple. I'm on everything. So check me out.
Well, you're soon to probably be on ADSM 1 too, I'm sure, with all of those things going. And I'll say this, I have a healthy respect for Iowa guys. Hayden Fry was a Texan who recruited for Iowa very well. He also signed Jerry Levias, one of the greats down at SMU. So I always had a tremendous amount of respect for Hayden Fry because he was allowing brothers to play early when a lot of other teams didn't. And I think that's why so many guys from Texas ended up migrating up to Iowa to play because of a guy like Hayden Fry. But with all that said, we'll have Super Bowl game updates, news, and more. Also, you can check out the Chopping It Up with Buck podcast. It's on ADSN1 and wherever you can find it on different podcast platforms. Hey, we've had a great year, but it ain't over. Super Bowl's here. You still get a few updates from us, so check us out.